What's up, you heathens and demons, you sinners and saints? I see Will just threw on his Make America Great Again hat. He's trying to trigger me. What's up, y'all? This should be an interesting conversation. Will was gonna be a part of the conversation yesterday, and the room filled up, and he was gracious enough just to do this as a one-on-one today. So I want to thank Will for that. Before we get into it, I do have one announcement. I will be on the Daily Atheist tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. With old friend of the channel, Chris, and he used to be on quite a few of the open rooms I used to have. So it should be fun, bright and early, going to bed early, so I'm nice and awake. So we have Will here. I think Will might surprise some folks with his stance. And me and Will, we've had back and forth history. If you haven't seen the live stream we did on my other channel a few days ago, you probably don't know we squashed our beef. That kind of happens with me and Will quite a bit. I'm quite a hard dude to get along with, and Will is a shit poster, and we all know it. So what's up, Will?
Not a whole lot. Sorry, I try to fucking mute through the whole thing. So, anyway, yeah, um, yeah, I'm in support of the protests completely, 100%. Matter of fact, in the beginning, I was in support of the riots. To be honest with you, I think they serve a they served a purpose for a hot minute because I think that people in government and public officials, including the police, should be afraid of the electorate. They shouldn't think that they have all the authority and that we're never going to do anything about it. They should be scared. That's what I
Yeah,
think.
I was a bit surprised. Not so much that you supported the protest, or even that you were upset about what happened to George Floyd. I don't think I've ever really thought that you were a racist. I have.
You called me a Nazi, but that's okay. That's
Yeah,
that's
well,
water
I
under
think
the
you have some
bridge.
Nazi tendencies. I think you hang around with wannabe Nazis.
I hang around with a lot of people.
But
Well, now the
our issues, the original issues we've ever really had have really centered around Brett Keane and John.
right.
John was the one that had made a very controversial Yiddish statement, which led to our first feud. Blah blah blah. But you're here. You wanted to be a part of the stream last night, and I think that
Yeah.
your position probably would surprise a lot of people who recognize you from your shit posts or whatever, because you do troll a
Yeah.
lot. You try to get a stir out of people. But let's talk about it. So, like, we were briefly talking before the stream, but you're libertarian.
Yeah.
So do you support the protests because of what has happened to George Floyd and what has happened to numerous black people and poor peoples over the course of the past 40, 50 years, however long,
Yeah.
pretty much since the inception of the country? Is that why you're in support, or is it because of your libertarian politics?
Uh, that's a combination of it. I mean, I support the protest for a number of reasons. I mean, some people, a lot of it is George Floyd. Most of it, to be honest with you. Some of it is just a general protest. Like we went to the one in Glens Falls. They're not a huge black community, but there's a lot of white and uh, BLM supporters that came out against the police too. So so like a general protest against police brutality, and then there's been some general protests against overreaching in the state's authority in general. So like for example, eventually George Floyd's case is going to go to court, and like I said before, the cop knows, not necessarily in this instance, but when it comes down to police, the cops buddy with the district attorney, and the district attorney washes the judge's balls, and somebody knows the governor and the whole thing. So the whole thing's corrupt top to bottom. So there's been some general strikes in Albany against the governor. Albany, obviously, if you're not from this country, Albany being the capital of New York State. So and that's just about an hour south of where I live. So I've been able to go to the ones in Saratoga and Glens Falls and Lake George and Albany. So all the big ones minus obviously New York City because it's 100 something miles away. And
Well, I didn't know you was that far away from the city.
nah, my shitty little that
That
yeah, it
happens
does
with
that.
Will. Yeah, that
Yeah, it
happens
does
with Will.
happen. With I can't fix it on my own streams anyway. Yeah, my shitty little Subaru. I call it the Lesmobile because they call me the king of all lesbians now, among other things. Uh, it wouldn't make the trip. Um, but
But you've actually been a part of a couple protests. You've marched. Did you wear
oh
a
yeah,
mask?
we went. Gavin McInnes was in Lake George, and we went looking for him because Lowe had a bone to pick with him over the Proud Boys chapter in Fresno. So I found out that he was in Lake George, and we were like, "All right, let's get him, boys."
So you were actually going to go and confront
Yeah,
I call him King Douchebag.
I knew for a fact that Gavin McInnes was in Lake George. I knew for
So
a
like,
hundred
you never
percent
found
fact.
did you find him?
Did not. What we heard was that okay. So the way it works is the protesters, and I'm going to differentiate here. The protesters, the people who go out and say, they might say ACAB, they might say fuck 12, but for the most part, it's like I can't breathe, stuff like that. Those people go out during the day. The riots come at night when they go and they break shit, which is what happened in Albany. And of course in Brooklyn, and I think maybe there's a little bit in Long Island and Manhattan. But um, Gavin was going to go. We thought he was going to the protest on the 5th in Lake George. He didn't show. Nobody saw him anywhere.
But
I
the
don't.
Proud Boys have been out in force though in a lot of the cities.
Yeah, and I don't know what the hell he's doing here exact. Like I know that Steven Crowder lives like 30 minutes away from me, and I know that Gavin does live in upstate New York somewhere. But upstate New York goes all the way to just north of Albany, so 30 minutes north of Albany, all the way to Clinton County, which is basically to fucking Canada. So I don't know exactly where he lives,
Mm.
but it seemed kind of odd that he was here at the time that he was in Lake George. So I figured if he was there a day or two before, that's the protest he was going to. But we had heard later on that he has recorded a video in Albany recording the riots saying that they were the protests. This is not the case.
Yeah, usually the riots and the protests are separate, and it's usually
Right.
outside groups that are coming in trying to tear shit up, anarchists, neo
Yeah, a bunch of
Nazis.
fucking agitators.
So so I guess I like that you're on the side of this. I do, but you hang around with a lot of different people. So
Oh yeah,
um,
well, for example, Brett Keane has been saying some, I think, really dumb shit about the protest.
see, I haven't heard.
The last couple of videos have been like,
I stopped watching
yeah, the
them.
last couple of videos he's put out have been very like, wow, you're a bunch of stupid fucking whatevers because you burned down your own shit. And I was like, okay, Brett, I can't get behind this. But John has been in full support. And like, so I uploaded some videos because I don't have enough subs on YouTube to do live off my phone. Um, I uploaded some videos of the protest that I had been to, and John was like, "Really? That's it?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's how we do it up north. We just protest stuff. We don't. It's not."
All right.
But
So like has it led to like divisions? Like I haven't seen Von Helton's stance on this, or I've been really super busy. I've been for one, I've been cleaning my house, but I've also been talking to people that I know on the ground in several cities. I know several people that have been a part of the protest up in Grand Rapids. I was going to go and be a part of the protest in Grand Rapids, decided against it because I didn't want to be a part of. I didn't want to be arrested, and they have been
oh,
arresting a lot of people up there. I have a daughter to take care of, can't get arrested, so I did participate in my protest here. So I haven't had much time really to like I wanted to kind of find out the stances of various different peoples. But has it led division with some of your friends? I could only imagine that Brett Keane isn't on the side of this. Von Helton, I could only imagine probably isn't on the side of this. I consider both. I don't know if Brett Keene's racist, but I'm fairly certain Vaughn has some issues there. Maybe I'm
Um,
wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
no, I don't think so. We've in a couple of post shows we've kind of talked about it, and I think we did a
See,
stream
I'm sorry,
recently.
Wilson is saying Vaughn is on the fence on whether or not George Floyd is still alive and just a crisis actor.
No, no, I don't think that that's the case. We He was there for a live stream I did while Lowe was actually in town here, so like he said basically all the same things that I said. Is like, but he did have one criticism that I agree with. Why the fuck are we putting white cops in mostly black neighborhoods? I had one black cop that I had talked to say, well, I can't I can't go to the hood and fucking in a cop uniform. They'll fuck with my family. They'll fuck with me, and they might kill somebody. I said, well, it doesn't have to be you as a black cop specifically, but take a black cop from a completely different fucking neighborhood. Like it's it just it's not good. I don't maybe somebody's
well,
got a better explanation, but
well, the one thing that I don't think that we need to do is segregate. I don't really get behind that. I know like you support the well, it's a mixed bag with you. I think you do support the violence and the riots as well. I do
well,
too.
not anymore.
I support
Yeah,
the violence when it comes to, or I say violence, but like the violent protests. I'm not violence against human beings. I'm never really in support of that unless it just comes down to the end of it. But like burning of the police building that the officer worked at, I was totally for that. Thought it
yeah,
was justified. Burning down the Amazon building in California, if that was protesters. Not sure if it was, but I would be for that. Looting the destruction of the Target, I was completely for that, because these are multi-billion-dollar companies that give slave wages to their workers. Their workers
yep,
have a hard time feeding their children, and yet the CEOs are rich fucking bastards. And my experience in No Dapple, and just from the few days that I was there, plus researching that protest, being a part of so many protests where police did instigate the violence there, I think that the time has come for peace to not really be on the table. Give us the instituted change that we've been asking for decades, or um, get the fuck out. That's pretty much where I'm at. Hopefully, like, I would like to see America vote all these fuckers out. But if it were to come to like real violence, I've been very open that I would be on the side of that. And in fact, as anti-gun as I am, as anti-violent violence as I am, that when it comes to this situation, I would be on board. Would you feel the same way?
yeah. I mean, generally speaking, you know, I think that if I think people have the right to stand up against their government whatever way they see fit. Um, I'm also like I'm pro gun, pro drug, pro whatever the fuck you want to do. So I mean, it's not really you know. Um, Everybody gets all fucking bent out of shape over property damage. I don't really know what
Well,
burning somebody's apartment building to the ground is gonna do exactly. I've seen a couple of instances of that, especially
Well,
in
yeah, I
Brooklyn.
think that
But
there's some definite things that shouldn't have happened, like burning down neighborhoods, burning down mom and pop stores that are in your neighborhood. Of course, once chaos reigns, it's hard to control it. I
right,
think that protesters have come a long way over the last several days to police their protests, and to really
oh yeah,
to really call out the people doing the irresponsible looting. But so I've heard a lot of libertarians, and this is a libertarian's wet dream. And my problem is that it's not about George Floyd with a lot of libertarians. It's just about their politics, and um, not really thinking that America needs a police force. I know that that's probably more of an extreme libertarian stand, but it isn't a libertarian stand. I do listen to a lot of talk radio. I've heard a lot of libertarians pretty much just like really wanting to see this go a lot farther, but I don't think it's for the reasons that we're here doing it. Like, like I was at the protest here. Um, People are on the ground every day. We're there for systematic change, and I don't personally think that like getting rid of the police is the answer. I think defunding the police is an answer. I think demilitarizing the police is an answer. I think having politicians accountable, truly accountable to the people again, is an answer.
Yeah,
Uh,
we had. I had
so
made a sign.
is it more the politics, or is it just like this shit is fucked up? We need to stop killing black people in this country. So I'm just trying to flesh out your position.
No, yeah, it's both. There we go.
That's yeah. There you go.
It gets
That's
so
a
annoying.
fair, honest answer. And at least it's both, because a lot of libertarians that I've heard, I haven't talked to many of them. I've kind of always thought libertarians are a little cuckoo, but then libertarians think that me being a socialist is cuckoo, right? So
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I
I'm using
disagree
Matt
with my
Powell's words there.
the only thing that I disagree with my party on really heavily is the gold standard, but that's an economic policy, and I lean harder to the left on social issues when it comes to libertarianism, and a little more conservative when it goes to the economic side, especially with like spending money. So, but other than that, we're pretty similar. Um, I don't really. Part of me wants to see the state abolished, but I know that that's probably not feasible. I don't think that people are ready to self govern 100% just yet, but I think there needs to be larger limitations on the ability of government to just come in and say, we're going to do this, that, and the other. I supported the protests when people were protesting lockdown and quarantine. I supported the George Floyd protests. I've got a pretty long, sordid history of protesting just about every goddamn thing under the sun. SOPA, PIPA, COPA, pretty much any piece of internet legislation that gave more authority to the government.
I've
So,
actually been part of several protests when it comes to internet and privatization and all of that shit.
right. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. I mean, I would like to clarify that I was with the riots up to a point, because I can't remember if I said it off air or on air, but just for the sake of clarity, I'll say it again anyway. I think that our government and our public officials should be terrified of the electorate, because that holds them accountable. They shouldn't think that we're just going to sit there and take it like good little boys. Um, yeah, they should legitimately be afraid of us, because they know that our votes generally don't count when it comes to things, and people don't really vote on ballot initiatives, and they have no idea. They don't know who their comptroller is or what that even means. They're not. Most people, when they vote maybe for their governor at the lowest level, and they get, if they get pumped up about politics at all, it's about, the president, or, but nobody even knows, but I vote. I've been a registered libertarian since, I think, let's see, 2011. Registered with my draft card,
So
and I've been
so
voting ever since. Everything that there is, budgets, all of it.
so as a libertarian, I saw you wearing your "Make America Great" hat again.
Yeah, I'm just fucking
Um,
with you,
all
dude.
right. So do
Yeah.
you think that Trump's response to this has been what you would want to see from your president?
No, I think he's been a shithead on this one. We did a video. The Trump called all 50 governors and like a conference call. I believe it was a 3 hour long call where every governor was allowed to chime in for a couple of minutes, and Trump was going to answer questions. And I don't know if it's deceptive editing or what it is. I don't think that it is, to be honest with you, because it's fucking PBS. But some people might say that they're like, working with the government, or like false flag, white helmet, 1776,
So
but the whole thing. But it's a 3 hour call, and he says basically, crack down. And it sounds like he's saying crack down on the protests, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then the other day he comes out, and in typical Trump hypocritical fashion, he comes out and he's like, I support the protest. And I was like, it's not what you said to the governors when you thought no one was going to fucking listen. But
well, and we saw what he did in Lafayette Square. the ordering the police to rush peaceful protesters that weren't looting, weren't rioting. They were there being very peaceful, so he can go have that photo op at the church, hold the Bible upside down, all of that shit.
Yeah, I wasn't so pissed off about that so much as I was about the protests in Washington, D.C., because even the protests at night were largely peaceful. And then, they were firing tear gas. I was watching it live. Um, they were shutting down live streams in Washington. So Anonymous had found somebody that had the live stream, and I saw that on Twitter. I was like, oh, I'll go take a look at this. And I work overnight, so I was up anyway. I watched till about like 1 o'clock in the morning or something.
Yeah, I was watching them on Facebook Live. It was
Yeah, it was pretty.
really easy to get in, kind of see all the different protests all over the country.
Yeah, yeah. What goes down in Washington D.C. is directly Trump's fucking issue,
Mm-hmm.
especially out in the White House lawn. I like how he said he was going to activate Bill Barr, Attorney General Bill Barr. I was like, what is he, a fucking robot? He's going to
So,
activate him?
so
That's
I
like,
can't remember if you were ever one, but I know your some of your friends, Brett, which you already said you've got differences of opinion with Brett, but John, I, I can't imagine that John was a big supporter of Colin Kaepernick. Um, were you a supporter of Colin Kaepernick when Kaepernick was first doing his peaceful protest and taking a knee? Were you ever a shit talker of Colin Kaepernick? How do you feel about Colin Kaepernick now?
um, okay, so this is a real retrospective. I can't remember when Colin Kaepernick first
It was
took a
about
knee.
4 years ago, I think, when he
Yeah,
first
that's
took a
what I
knee.
was thinking. It was probably 2016, so it was 4 years ago. Shit, a lot changes in 4 years, I guess. At first, I was a little confused, not because of why he was taking a knee, but why he didn't just, do what he did later and do a commercial or get on Twitter or YouTube or whatever. I looked at the NFL, I was like, well, that's a private industry. If they don't want people making, public statements like that, that's one thing. And
But
then,
you're libertarian, and I'm not so sure about the libertarian position, but most right wingers, and I would consider libertarian to be on the right. Most right wingers consider themselves to be constitutionalists, and the Supreme Court has ruled that you can't force people into displays of nationality. I don't give a fuck if it's a private company or not. The
right.
NFL was wrong. They shouldn't have done what they did. I think that them changing their stance right now is just a completely two-faced. They're trying to save their league type of deal.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't really watch the NFL anymore anyway. I like college ball better because those people have something to lose and they play like they have
I
something to
watch the
win.
NFL. I've never been one for cancel culture. I'm not going to stop watching the NFL because the owners are a bunch of are pieces
No,
of
I'm saying
shit.
that I stopped watching it for other reasons anyway, so I wasn't really that into it to begin with.
Yeah. Well,
I
I
like
used to
Virginia
play
Tech,
football, so
so
it's like me reliving my past and shit.
yeah. But at any rate, something had happened later on with the Chinese protests. You remember Blizzard, Blitz Chung, when he's well, that whole thing basically changed my whole opinion about it. I don't think that anybody has the ability to say one
I
thing or the
vaguely
other at this
remember
point.
something with Blizzard. I didn't know the details. I've always been a WoW gamer, but I remember
I
Source
believe it was League
especially.
of Legends. It was a championship tournament, and
Yeah, that's
he
what it
was
was. I think.
interviewed, or he said something along the lines of "Revolution of Our Times," which is the slogan of the Hong Kong protests. and, and Blizzard, in typical Blizzard China-owned fashion, was like, "Got to get rid of him. We're taking away his prize money. We're taking away his title." It's like that's bullshit. That's not. It's like everybody was of two minds about that. It's like, well, it's a private business, and it's like,
All right. So one thing that I do know, because I've seen several of John troll. So I don't know if it was him just trolling or not. But like he'll make a lot of justifications about how more white people will get locked up than black people, and I've think I've seen that recently from him. Um,
I think that's accurate, but that's just a fact of statistics. I don't think he means proportionally.
but so when people say that though, and they're not given the nuance of it, because it's true, it's without a doubt. You can look up the FBI records. S.J. Thomason sent them to me the other day, and I had to explain to her, like, you can't look at these numbers and say there's no systematic racism in this country
Yeah, I
because
think that black people make up 32% of the prison population, despite
thirty
this.
seven, thirty
Yeah,
seven percent.
and I think that they're 12 point something percent of
Well,
the
so when I say 37%, that's just black males. All right,
right.
that doesn't include females. Black males are 5.8% of the population, and they're 37% of the prison population.
Really, that low? I thought it was. I thought that
The
African Americans made
overall
up 12.5.
12.5 would be all black people, male and female.
Oh, okay, cool. Because Laura Ingraham or somebody on Fox News the other
Never
day
trust that bitch. She's stupid.
had said some bigoted shit about. They didn't say black people, but they said
And I'm
12.
not
They
calling
said
Laura
like
Ingram
10.
a bitch because she's a woman. I'm calling her a bitch because she's Laura Ingram.
Yeah, uh, but she said some shit about 10 to 15% of the population are all bad people or something like that, making some weird illusion. I was like, what the fuck is that? And then I was like, hold on, let me just look up what the percentage of black people, what the population percentage is. And I was like, 12.5. Oh, that's almost dead center of those two numbers. And I was like,
Yeah, so you really have to go into it deep. Uh, so with these numbers, you got 5.8% of the population are black males, and then part of that number are really young black males, too young to be going to prison, and still they occupy 37% of the prison population. Now that's actually a number that's down over the last 10 years because I think that the police have kind of switched their mode. I think it used to be just outright blatantly racist. If you were a black dude, you're probably going to go to prison. Now I think it's more focused on impoverished peoples. More and more white people are living in the ghettos now, so we have more and more white people going to prison. So it does seem like it's evening out a little bit, but it's still astronomically disproportionate when you're talking about black males.
right. Well, the opioid crisis has reached to the white population, and then they get hooked on meth. Not to be a stereotyping, meth is
But I
kind of.
think I think the opioids were always kind of a white thing.
Yeah, well, it's more of a working class thing. I mean, I think most opioid overdoses now happen to adult males over the age of 65, predominantly white. So it's
Mm.
working. My guess is that's because it's working class dudes that they fuck their back at work, and the doctor gives them a prescription, and then he's like, fuck, and then cut him off at some point or whatever, or they keep upping the dosage, and then they just OD. But like, a lot of them move to meth or heroin or something like that, and so since I live in a predominantly white area, the poorest they're usually working class people, which includes a lot of fucking rednecks, if I'm being honest. A lot of flag waving, Gadsden flag. Occasionally, you'll see a Confederate flag on the back of some souped up pickup. They did the spray paint job themselves, but those are our broke people, and they get pulled over by the cops all the fucking time. They just can't help themselves.
Well, I
Here,
think it
I'm just talking
depends.
about here.
Yeah, maybe in New York, but I know like here, even here in Michigan, it seems to be becoming more and more accepted. And they'll talk about it's Southern heritage, and I'm like, you don't know what the fuck Southern heritage is. You're a Yankee. One,
Yeah,
two, that Southern heritage is slavery. I mean, you can't fucking escape that.
right.
But so my point though was that I think overall, maybe up in New York, but I think overall we've seen a clear bias in terms of police when it comes to these. So what I call them Confederates. You can't really call them. I don't think that they're neo Nazis. Really, really close, but they're Confederates. They believe that the South will rise again, which means that they want to reinstitute slavery. And I think that we have clear evidence that the police have avoided them and have pretty much let them get away doing whatever the fuck they want to do.
Um, Yeah, like I said, I don't see that in the North. I the part of the problem is that a lot of cops are broke. They're not really they're not wealthy in the sense that not even lower middle class. They're like upper lower class for the most part, and there's a lot of reasons for that. I suppose we could get into because I do come from a police family. Um,
See, I figured that they made pretty decent money.
no, it's a little bit. The real thing is the authority and the hours. The union is a big pain in the ass. Um, I'm not usually for getting rid of unions, but the police union is a big one that I think probably needs to fucking go because the way that it works with unions with state employees, especially in New York State, and I know because I'm one of them, is that your pay and your salary and your bonuses are not based on merit for the most part. In fact, if they get away with not giving you a bonus, that's part of your union contract. Your boss will often just, when they do performance reviews for evaluations for bonuses and pay raises and stuff like that, they have criteria and they usually put meets expectations because if you have two exceeds, they have to give you um, a, a pay there we go. A pay increase. Um,
That would drive
so
me
they,
fucking crazy, dude.
so they just, yeah, I got used to it. I have no idea what it is. The internet connection's fine anyway. So, they don't do that for the most part. So cops make money doing other crooked shit because they didn't realize what they were getting into. You don't really to be like to, like upstate here. It's mostly villages, hamlets, and small cities. So there's not really there's not really the budget for it. The unions don't give a fuck. So they just do crooked, fucked up shit to make money.
Hmm.
Um,
That could be an element that I haven't really considered, like because I just assumed that probably got some form of hazard pay. It's a dangerous job. I just probably
oh
assumed
yeah,
that they made a fairly decent living wage.
I get hazard pay, but in my union contract, it's really not that much. I get a pay differential for working overnights too, and it's barely. It's all based on seniority, and your job is to look out for other cops because you want to make your buddies in the force meet seniority someday, so that one day you can get the promotion based on seniority because it ain't gonna happen on merit.
So the
It just
system
doesn't.
itself within the police promotes that blue brotherhood. Like
That's part
you
of
need to
why,
be
though.
loyal to your friends if you want to advance.
Yeah, that's part of the equation that I don't think people. I'm trying to come at it from a perspective that maybe people hadn't considered. People get really like touchy when it comes to unions, especially, and I'll make a distinction here between leftists and liberals. Liberals, so somebody who's like an avid Joe Biden supporter. So they really like the unions, but they don't exactly know why, and most of them haven't never been in a union before. And unions, when it's between a private industry and a state institution, like uh, Office of Persons with Developmental Disabilities, Office of Professional Medical Conduct, DOH, DOL, DMV, all these other divisions of the state, including corrections and the police. Um, they're handled much differently than um, someone like a private paper mill that has or a factory that has a union because when it comes to the state the uh, the unions will often give their money to their dues that they collect from people to whoever the incumbent is. So it's not just Democrats, but Democrats mostly are most highly um, go for the unions. So
Yeah,
what
yeah,
the
that's true.
well the and so the governor gets a big
The,
stipend of money from the unions to then use on his reelection campaign, which of course he doesn't need because he's an incumbent in a mostly blue state like New York or California, etc. So he basically gets his bribe money, and then in exchange for that, what he does is the retirement system for state employees is a tier-based system. So it's when you came in and what your union contract negotiated at the time. So if you have so many certain years, let's say you're 5 years from retirement, during an election cycle just before, what Cuomo will do is he'll buy out your retirement so you can retire with full benefits 5 years early. And then the unions promote the idea of voting for Democrats because Cuomo's going to let you go 5 years early with full benefits, the whole thing. So that's how Cuomo washes his money. But he doesn't use his money to pay for it. He uses taxpayer dollars to buy out state employees. And that's every department of the state. So.
Sorry, I've got a little tiny ant. I need to spray my door seal. But the tiny ant is inside my computer. It's fucking inside the screen, so I can't flick it off, and it's driving me. It's getting my OCD. So no, I think you're making a really good point. Now
it's part of the equation. It's not the whole thing, but
I think it's definitely could be part of the equation, and that's why I want to have these discussions, and I want to talk to everybody. I do see Brian Stevens is talking about kind of SJ's community over there, and yeah, if I see bigotry in the chat, I do have a hard time looking at chat sometimes. But if I see it, I'm going to combat it, and I want people combating it. And if it's absolute hate speech, then my moderators, if they're here, will time them out or ban them from the chat. And if my moderators aren't here, please at me several times until I notice so I can take action myself. My one rule is no hate speech, but I would like to see bigotry combated. And if it goes to fucking hate, then they're gone. But I want to have these conversations with everybody, every perspective. I would love to get like just an outright Trumper, somebody that just doesn't agree with these or agrees with the president that these protests need to be stomped out. I would like to talk to them. I don't know how long I would last being cordial with them.
It's hard to find anyone really that is completely against these protests without just being an outright fucking racist.
Well, yeah, and that's I think the base of the Trump's support would probably be that 20% of really racist people there, because I have seen like a lot of people, a lot of Trumpers that did not like what Colin Kaepernick was doing, are now saying that they can understand why Colin Kaepernick did what he did. And they're also coming out. This is probably the first time that I've seen Trumpers come out against Trump when it comes to his comments on the protests.
In the beginning, to me, the Colin Kaepernick thing just seemed like another celebrity doing the, look at me, virtue signaling thing. But now it's, obviously.
Well, I think that argument might have had some legitimacy. If he had stopped before he lost his career.
Well, Ariana Grande is on Twitter right now talking about the Civil Rights Code of New York State, Section 50, Part A. What the fuck does Ariana Grande know about the Civil Rights Code in New York State? Is she even from New York? Is she like from Brooklyn or something? I have no fucking idea. So when celebrities say shit like this, sometimes it feels like they're just trying to score brownie points, either with companies that they're paired with that do the whole, okay, we love gay people, we're going to change our fucking logo and do a whole bunch of goofy shit. We're going to make a rainbow Oreo, like that helps somehow. So, and they're paired with them, and they're going to do their virtue signaling thing so that they can push, some shitty capitalist bullshit. Yeah. So.
Well, yeah, I think that there are definite celebrities that are going to use situations like this to get more fame or to get support from people that might not have supported them before. I can't quite remember the circumstances surrounding why Colin Kaepernick started kneeling. I believe it was Michael Brown and the situation in Ferguson, but I could be wrong about that.
Well, yeah. Then he took that sweet Nike cash. He wasn't afraid to take that. That's the other thing is that it's like, and then you see these people taking the money.
He took Nike cash, but Nike made $165 million off of that, I believe, or maybe billion. I can't remember. It was a really big number. I think he got paid $20 million. But he got the message out and he got a lot of support. I think we was actually able to see that the country actually did support his protest, did support him. Like, I was never a Colin Kaepernick fan. I'm a Detroit Lions guy. If he's not playing for the Lions, I really give two shits about him. I do like the Chiefs. I know my boy Kent Hovind CPA is in the chat. They're my second team. But outside of that, I don't really care for anybody. So I wasn't a Colin Kaepernick fan. He would come to Detroit, tear us up. Did
Like I
not
said,
like
I
the
never
guy.
even really watched the NFL.
Yeah, I did,
I like
but
college
like when he
ball.
started protesting, I was like all on board, and I've been fighting racist. And I'll even give it up to the person in the chat, Alice the Strange. So my relatives are both Trumpers and non-racist. I have relatives that are Trumpers and non-racist as well. But
Yeah,
at the
this is
same
Trumpers
time,
for
those same
pragmatic
those
reasons.
same relatives who I would consider non-racist would be very, very borderline racist in their comments about Colin Kaepernick, and completely on Trump's side. So I think that even a lot of the people that might not be racist don't understand that they're doing a lot of racist shit. And it's good to see that you're at least coming, you're on the right side of this. And I don't think you've ever really been a big Trumper, at least not like I think John is, but I don't think you've ever really been
No, I don't really think that
too
John
big.
is either. John is anti-state, anti-border. So
Well, I could have swore he was a big Trump
no,
guy.
he's constantly. Me and John butt heads about that all the time. He's like he believes in the abolition of the state. He's like in practice he's a borderline commie, like an anarcho-communist.
Well, I mean, in that libertarian, wouldn't that be more of a libertarian? Because I don't think like,
Oh,
you,
libertarians still believe in the state. They just believe in limited power. He wants the whole thing to go away. He doesn't
so
believe in
he
the
just
police.
wants fucking anarchy, and I
He
have
wants the
gotten that from
fucking.
his comments.
He wants the police department to fucking go away. If I'm not mistaken, completely. He believes that people should be able to self police. So that sounds like an
So do
anti-com.
you? Let's talk about that. The solutions here.
Oh yeah, I got. For fuck's sake, we talked about this in an hour-long live stream because I wanted to get all of my George Floyd ideas out
Well,
in
yeah.
one thing.
Well,
So
go for it. It doesn't have to be an hour. We can go longer. So I'll let you say what you need to say, and then I'll come back in and ask some questions.
first of all, breaking up the union is a good start for the police, that would be extremely hard to do. So maybe in the short term, defunding the police is gonna it's gonna be an indicator to somebody that this needs to stop. But also, as an alternative, I think the bar for entry for a police officer needs to be much higher. You don't need a criminal science background. You don't need for local police anyway. You don't need much in the way of education.
I think extensive psychiatric evaluations is necessary.
Right. That was the other problem with gun control legislation is a lot of these guys would have background checks and stuff and psychiatric evaluations, and then they'd go mow down a bunch of people in a shopping mall or something. So I'm kind of skeptical about that. Um, but definitely, I think that the police should be held to a higher standard rather. And I think that once they put on the badge, that they should lose some of their rights while they're wearing the badge. So, for example,
Yeah, give some examples.
yeah, for example, they should be held to a much higher standard of conduct, including speech. So, there's a lot of cops that get away with saying some crooked shit because they're wearing the badge. Um, effing and jeffing about the N word and this, that, and the other thing. And, you know, like I said earlier, the cop knows the judge and the judge knows the DA and the DA knows the public defender for the family of the murdered victim of the police officer. And, so everyone washes each other's balls and looks out for each other when it comes to the so-called justice system.
Well, yeah, I think we see that time and time again. DAs not willing to prosecute their friends. Their DAs often work in close synchronization with the police departments.
Oh yeah,
So yeah, I think we
procurators
see
and the
that all
governors.
across the board. I think it's one of the major issues.
Yeah, and if we're gonna venerate police, I think we should have a higher bar for entry, a higher standard. Um, like when I go to work, when I'm at work, I have a lot of downtime because I work overnights, but I'm not allowed to organize a protest on Twitter while I'm at work. Um, I'm not allowed to collude with other members of my workforce to set bricks to set up protesters. I'm not allowed to.
Would you want to do that?
What I want? No.
So, but like, because that's like a serious problem. I think that we have several. I don't know if it's anarchist groups, neo-Nazi groups, probably a combination. But I think that we have evidence that piles of bricks are being delivered to the
Oh yeah,
to the hot
I've
zones.
got on my Twitter feed. I've been retweeting everything I've seen. So I've seen some two skinny white dudes in an SUV giving bricks to black people, kind of dressed liberal, sort of leftist hippie kind of, but you don't really know what the hell they are because they don't say. But the cops are wearing the badge, so when I see the cops doing it, I know who the fuck it is. That's the only thing. So I've been putting all that shit out there. All the violence, all the positive.
Yeah, I should check out some of your shit.
Flint was probably what changed shit for me because I was like, what the fuck is going on with all this? And I was like, oh, Flint figured it out. Okay, we should do that. And I think
Are you talking about the sheriff that walked with the
hashtag walk
protesters?
with us. Yeah,
All right, yeah, because and especially in Flint, considering the climate there, considering that there's still segments of the city that doesn't have clean water. There has been conflict with the police of Flint since the water situation started. I was at one of the original protests. We were all gathered camping out in this park, and I was probably there for a week and a half, but they were there for months, and the police harassed us daily. So when I saw that in Flint, it affected me, and I was like, "This is what needs to happen," and I still think it's what needs to happen. But then we see other instances where cops did take a knee, the protesters embraced them, and then the cops started attacking them inside of that fucking protest. I
yeah,
mean,
I
it was
saw that
pretty
too.
atrocious.
I retweeted that as well. I retweeted everything I could possibly find, and I went through all of it on one live stream, just for the Twitter stuff, just for all the videos, including the videos of stuff that had happened here. Because we had some white supremacists say, and these were legitimate white supremacists, and I know there might be right wing people out there who are listening to this and think, you know, everybody, it's a left channel, so they call everybody white supremacist. Not me. So these are
I'm trying to
legitimately
work on that. I'm bad about it though.
it was legitimately a group of people who wanted a reason to start shit with black people so that they could commit violence and say that it was self defense and justified. So they called in and they got the guy who fucking did it. The no offense to you, but the baldy head, goofy looking fuck. They got him, but they said that they called in a bomb threat and they threatened to burn Glens Falls to the ground and said that they were with BLM. Which wasn't the case. So for 5 straight days, um, or was it? It was. There's another 4 or 5, but for I think almost 5 straight days, Black Lives Matter showed up during the day and during the night to just stand there and with their signs and shirts and do nothing to show that they were not violent, which I thought was great. So through that, they
Yeah,
caught the fuckers who did it, and at the official protest on the 5th in Glens Falls, no kind of protest. None. I saw a couple of guys on a roof with a Trump 2020 sign and all their shit in the windows recording like I'm some kind of animal at the zoo, like with the phones on the
well,
roof. But
it,
that was
it's
it.
it's one of the paradoxes of the Trump supporters, I think, because they're supposed to be conservatives, they're supposed to be against big government, and here they seem to be in full support of big government. It's a really strange paradigm that I think has exposed them for what they are. But like you talk like I am a lefty. I do try to be fair,
Right.
and I understand that I fail at that a lot. It's one of the things that I'm trying to work on. I think that like I can talk with you, and even though I know like you're a libertarian, and some libertarians just get just crazy with their politics. Sometimes you do, but usually you're willing to have a conversation and a back and forth, and you're
Right.
willing to admit if I'm right about something. Something I need to work on myself is acknowledging when I'm wrong about shit, and I try to do that. But
Right.
with Trumpers, it's like I'm not sure if it's just the blatant racism, the blatant racist, or if they're just going to go along with Trump no matter what. Even with this, even with seeing a video for 9 minutes of a man being tortured and murdered, and the ability not to be able to empathize and put themselves in that man's shoes, it really kind of just throws me for a loop. Like, even my dad is fully supporting Trump's stance on these protests, and
Yeah,
it's
I can
caused
see it.
division farther than the division that we've had for the last 3 years since he became this Trumper dude. And it's really made me wake up that I cannot allow people in my life who are even going to just have really latent racist beliefs. I just can't allow it. And I guess that would be my question: is this affecting some of, because you hang around with a lot of edge lords? Is this affecting your relationships with some of the people that you've been hanging around with?
No, not really.
So
Not
you're able to just disagree on shit and move on.
yeah. People generally, if I'm friends with somebody and they're friends with my friends, they're friends through me. I don't like the voice of reason in the room anyway. As weird as
Oh
that
shit.
sounds.
Yeah.
So I'm not a fence
I might
sitter, but
disagree.
I'm not a, I'm not a milk toast fence sitter or anything. But I have a mixed, I've agreed with some Democrats, especially like Tulsi Gabbard and Bernie Sanders and people like this, um, on some things, and I've agreed with Trump on others, but they were always for pragmatic reasons. And
See, there goes John, just like kind of defending Trump. Trump said the video made him sick. Yeah, he had to say that shit. He also said crush the protesters. So I mean, come on, John, you can do better than that.
well, yeah, well, he was there when we covered that on the show too. I think, or he might have missed that one. He might have been working that day. I know for a fact that Lowe was there, because he helps me stay on point. I think that Lowe is a self-identified communist or left. I'm gonna
20-second pause.
20-second pause. Hooray! I gotta love that. But I try to balance myself out. Been trying to get more left-leaning friends than I previously had, and I got a lot of that, especially in my Discord server, which is basically just like a hub to come in and be on the show at this point. So
Yeah, I think that's what I'm doing. If I do another Discord server, it's just going to be mainly for the show, trying to get people on.
yeah, what we do in there is basically like, hey, you want to come on and bullshit on a fucking hour and a half long show about whatever the fuck you feel like talking about, and that way nobody has to turn on a camera. It's quick. You can do it on an app on your phone. StreamYards doesn't really work on an app, so. But I did do a streamer the other day that took off, but it was probably because we had Von Helton in there. So, but we'll get to
How the fuck do you even stand that dude? Like
He is amazing. You have to listen. It's like I don't know how else to say.
I'm gonna admit, like, I don't know the guy very well. He's been on my channel a couple times. I was on Brett Keen's channel a couple times. We got into it about Mexican children on the southern border being put in the concentration camps. People don't like it
That
when I
wasn't
use that
Von.
language.
That was Jesus Freak.
Well, that was
77.
Jesus Freak, but Von was in one of those and was
Oh, was he?
definitely on
Oh,
that
okay.
side. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't hear him. You know what's great about Vaughn? To borrow a phrase from my buddy John, Vaughn's nuttier than squirrel shit, but he's the nicest guy you can meet. He's been trolled the shit out of on the internet forever to the point where he's been accused of doing X, Y, and Z, and he's had his fucking visitation to his kids taken away and stuff. His wife divorced him because she was just harassed into oblivion. There's been a lot of bad shit that's happened to Vaughn that would make through him being on the internet that has made him the paranoid schizophrenic that he is today. I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't think, frankly, he'd want me talking about it too much. Not a respect for him. That's where the line is. But he's he has moments of lucidity where he'll make a cogent argument, like, you know, when a dumb character in a cartoon gets hit in the head with a frying pan and all of a sudden they're super intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that. It's just moments of lucid self-awareness that just throw you completely off guard, and that's one of the things I like about Vaughn. Plus, he has also say like shit about the ice wall, aliens, fucking. He's just got all this crazy shit coming in from every direction, and he's from another dimension, and he's got the staff of Baal, and he's got
Yeah,
a wall of protection around the United States made of pure
he's
magic.
crazy.
It's
I know, like
great.
even polytheists don't like him, but so here's my thing, because I'm at this point now that I think that it's so important um that people stand against racism, people stand against hatred. People need to make vocal stands against that and confront it and not allow people to get away with that shit. And so, like, for me personally, I don't believe in cancel culture, but at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and be your fucking friend if you're going to espouse even some racial rhetoric. Like, I'm just not going to do that. Now is not the time for it. I'm not going to let you just get away with that. So, like, if you really believe that what happened to George Floyd and what's been happening to black people is super wrong, then how can you really justify putting yourself in positions to be friendly with people that might not think so?
Right. I don't. I mean, so me and John do not disagree very much on anything. John is definitely, when he gets irritated, he'll just fucking go off and say whatever he thinks is gonna make you pissed off. So,
I've been guilty of that myself.
knowing John in real life and how he is, and like what he says when nobody's around and how he behaves when nobody's looking, I know that John is not a fucking racist. Does he say some wild out there shit on YouTube? Definitely does. Definitely. I mean, fuck. I mean, sometimes it's even entertaining, but I use YouTube here now to mostly just have fun and occasionally have serious conversations like this on somebody else's channel, not mine, because my channel's just fucking goofy at this point. But like I take like games you love. Some people will know what games you love is from the old Drunken Peasants era with when TJ was still on the Drunken Peasants. Me and John are now part owners of Games You Love. We have merchandise. We're working on an I believe in Von Helton hat with Von Helton and the little eye on the pyramid on the dollar bill and like the whole thing.
I
So
see. Sorry to cut you off. I see one of my new trolls is in the chat. What's up, Smoky Saint? I find you to be hilarious. Lick
he's
my
not
asshole.
new.
Lick my asshole.
He's not new.
Smoky Saint. Maybe. Hopefully, I'm not mixing you up with because I do have this new troll. I'm pretty sure it's the same one.
Smoky State has been in your open rooms. He was in there a year ago. I remember him because he used to hang with us.
Really?
Yeah,
I don't remember.
if you go back to some of the earlier streams when Shay was on and during the Messenger Reveals arc, Smoky Saint was in there. Yep. I remember all of this
Well,
fucking shit. I have no choice.
welcome back, Smoky Saint. I have found your trolls to be rather entertaining. It's been good fun for me. But I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, so we all kind of more or less work together. Like I'm wearing one of John's shirts right now. This, John is Che Guevara. So
Yeah, like why does that say John Grishala when that's not John Grishala?
This is an old shirt. This is an old shirt that he made that was hidden forever because it wasn't really politically correct. He mostly does the I Love Torah kind of t-shirts and stuff.
So is that John?
Yeah, this is John. This was supposed to be blue, but the blue on the red from Teespring for some reason it made it purple. But yeah, that is actually John dressed as Che Guevara. Actually, it's not just a Photoshop. He took a photograph, turned it into a negative, and put it on his shirt. At any rate, the reason I say that is because we cross promote each other's shit. And we all kind of like work together and sell merchandise, and we're all kind of like some weird, deranged, fucked up family.
I would say I would have to agree with that. You're a very deranged, fucked up family.
Because now my co-host Lo has moved into it, and I've got somebody else who's going to help me co-produce the show to get more content out regularly, like produce content, because I'm big on the live streams, but people want, edited videos, I guess. So I'm going to have somebody take care of that stuff, and it won't go out on YouTube. It'll go out on BitTube because for some reason the edited videos do better on BitTube and the streams do better on YouTube. Um, at one point, I was racking in thousands of views on BitTube for edited content, and I'll upload a soundbite here and there. I got a brand new phone that is now capable of streaming much better, so I'm recording higher quality videos, and I can edit off of this. I can
Is that
edit
an
a small
iPhone?
video. No, it's something I ordered custom.
I love my phone. I got an iPhone.
Yeah, it cost me $129 to put together. Um, Better than
Mine
that, literally.
was too much. Too fucking much.
Yeah, but so we all work together. So generally, if we disagree on something to the point where we're arguing, we will just bust each other's balls and call each other names, and then eventually that'll just be the end of that. Eventually, it'll just fizzle out because it's a lot like our relationship between me and you, where it's like we'll have beef and we'll argue, but then I'll be like, I don't have time to be this angry. I got shit to do.
So do you know Smokey Saint?
Know him? I don't. He's not like. He's never been in my Discord. I haven't really talked to him
This
much.
comment right here, it's really bugging me. So he says he's talking to Brian, but he says we were about to have a national conversation about bad cops. Now we have to talk about non-existent race issues. Like if you can't see how these go hand in hand, maybe want to leave your white nationalist dog whistles somewhere else because all I'm going to do is tell you to fuck off. But I'll let Brian have fun with you.
Non-existent race issues. Uh, well, I mean, like personally, I think the idea of race needs to go bye bye, but it doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. So we have to.
I'm actually with you on that. I think that we need to stop seeing things along the lines of race, but at the same time, until we address the race issue, we'll never get there. And I think people are too afraid to address this race issue, or oftentimes, and I'm not talking shit. I know it's probably just maybe a way that you particularly deal with some things, but like when people are joking around. And I'm not trying to say that I've ever seen you joke around about race issues, but some people do, and they try to be, well, I'm just joking. I know I've seen John say that shit, and it's not funny. It's just not funny. It's not. We need to have a serious conversation about race, and if you're making it into a joke, that's not a serious conversation. And if you don't have
Yeah,
that serious conversation about race, then we're never going to get beyond race because we have to solve those issues to move beyond them.
right. I mean, we joke about we do have conversations where we joke about race, but we don't joke about the race issue, the
So I mean,
discussion.
John is now saying race was invited. He says invited. I'm sure he means invented. Race was invented by Marxists to destroy the West. I mean, come the fuck on. See,
He's
this is what I'm
fucking.
talking about. This is
He's
what I'm talking about right
nah.
here.
He's fucking with you. He's trying to get a
Well, but
rise
that's
out of
what I'm
you.
saying though. You shouldn't take it to that level. This is a very serious issue, and if you're gonna take it to that level, when people start calling you a fucking racist, you can't get butthurt about it because you're being a fucking racist.
He's when it comes to John, yeah, you're handling him all wrong. If instead you just did nothing, you wouldn't have an issue.
Well, usually
Because
I don't, but I mean, he's just
well,
kind of
okay,
making my point for me here.
I wasn't gonna do this, but I guess since we're talking about it, I guess we will. John was cordial in here yesterday, and then a bunch of people came after him for some bigoted shit, some shit that we rehashed a million fucking times.
I
And
haven't looked at I haven't went back and looked at last night's chat, and I
I
was I
just
was very invested in the conversation.
Yeah, I know, and that's the next thing I want to talk about. But the circumstances where there were a bunch of people just being dicks to John, and so John gave it right back, and it just escalated back and forth. And then a moderator, well, I don't know if they kicked him or muted him or what they did exactly. I think it was like, all right, fuck this then. And then that's the way it is. So he's come back for more today. It sounds like because they put him in a fuck you kind of attitude. But
Well, and for now, like with the new rules of the side chat, it's really hard to get timed out. So, like, if you're getting timed out, you're saying some. I'd have to go back and look at it. Don't want to say
he
definitely.
told me what he said in the end. It was definitely ban worthy according to your standards. But
Yeah,
that's
I
the way
mean,
it
because
is.
my standards are a lot lower than they were even 2 weeks ago.
John doesn't fucking really mean any of that bigoted shit. He just knows it's gonna piss all of you off. So
Well, but
that's
see,
why he
well,
does
that's
it.
the point, though. That's the point. Like,
Yeah.
if you're going to perpetuate that dialogue just to piss people off, then you are giving yourself a reputation there. You're not going to be able to escape it. Those people that you are just pissing off are going to, every time they see you now, see a fucking racist, and they're going to treat you as such. And you brought that upon yourself.
Right. Well, that's all up to John at that point. But like, if you've seen him in any of the streams, he's like way more fucking left leaning than I am. He like he's the one who put the idea that race is fucking nonsense and needs to go bye bye in my head and cement it
I
for a
don't.
long time.
Like, what was his comment on my video yesterday, or my Matt Powell video? He said, "I think Matt's a very nice young man." I mean, like, so
That sounds
so
like sarcasm to me because he fucking hates Jews. So
yeah. Well, that would be my question for John,
yeah,
and me and
we don't
John are
like
gonna have
Matt
to have
Powell.
a rage session. I don't know how long it will last, but I feel like I need to get some of my rage out on him and give him a chance to maybe get some out on me.
That would be good.
But
I think
like
that's
if you were
healthy.
gonna sit here and say that Matt Powell's a nice young man, I assume that you know about the shit that Matt Powell says, the genocide about gay people. But even beyond that, like you're a Jew now, John. Matt Powell hates you. He fucking hates you.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because Brett Keane is friends with Matt Powell, so it's like Matt Powell.
So
If he
I
wants
would
some dirt
challenge
on
Brett
Matt
King to
Powell, this
have
will be
John on his stream with Matt Powell and ask Matt Powell how he feels about Jews.
yeah, I think that would be really funny, and I think that John would roast the shit out of him. And did you see his debate on Modern Day Debate with G Man? I think he did. I don't think that he. I think that John did as well as you could, drunk, and with G Man as a tag partner on a non sequitur proposition.
He was a partner with G Man.
He was G Man's partner because they're kind of being assholes to him, I guess, and G Man is kind of John's Make a Wish kid for the day, and that it was
You're not making this any. You're not making him look better here.
John. John went to bat for G Man. It was like, well, pick a topic, and they, I guess G Man picked the evolution is racist, which is a complete non-starter. It's not even a real fucking question. And John was like, he messages me and he's like, I'm so fucked, Will. I didn't prepare. I'm so fucked. And then hours later when I get to work, he goes, I did so fucking well. And it was like, I fucking. What it really was is G Man made him look like a fucking genius, like a reasonable human being. But
Well, yeah, I could
take the
see
W when
that
you get
happening.
it. Yeah.
I've only seen John on Modern Day Debate once, and he didn't really say much. It was the debate he was in with Ali, and that was more like Ali and Cyrus against Sygart, and John was just kind of he piped in a couple times.
Yeah.
But this isn't so much about John. I didn't really mean to get it over to John.
No, but it's
He's being
fucking
a shit in the
whatever,
chat, and
bro.
Smokey Saints being a shit in the chat, which is fine. Brian definitely engage with him. But if Smokey does start showing some hate comments, then let me know so I can get him out of here.
Yeah.
But
I did have a couple of things that I wanted to say in
well,
passing
and I
though.
want to give you that chance, but I have to say, like I'm happy that you at least are that there's one member of that crew that I can feel fairly confident is on the right side of this, and maybe you could rub off on them. I don't think you'll ever rub off on Brett Keane or John,
Oh hell,
but
we rub off on each other all the time. That's a circle jerk joke. You can.
yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen too much change there from either of them too, but then again, like this is what you do, and you you do try to skate the edges of civility sometimes. So do I.
I'm just
But
here to have
I
fun
am
at this point.
appreciative
Yeah.
that because I didn't know what I was going to walk into. I didn't check out your stance before. I thought there was like a
I know.
50% chance that I would end up raging out on you again and we'd be fucking right back in that spot again. But no, I like your position here. I just I don't know. Like it seems like there's a lot of a lot of latent racism that's used as jokes, and I'm kind of glad that it was brought up in the side chat. But I'll go ahead and say what you wanted to say.
Yeah, when it comes to the side chat, I think not a rule, but as a general matter of practice, the moderators should be reminding people to try to keep it on topic, but not really
I
enforcing
got to
it.
get more moderators. I'm changing
Just to
everything
remind
around.
people that they should probably be staying on topic, because oftentimes I find in your videos that I have in the past as well, before you changed moderation recently, that there will be completely different side conversations going on in the side chat that have nothing to do with what's being said, even for like
Yeah.
a cupcake stream, for example.
Well, yeah, and I've been back and forth on that because you want people talking about what you're talking about, but at the same time, I want people to have fun in the side chats. And usually, when I go into a side chat, I'm trolling. You know, if I'm in modern day debate, I'm singling out Jill, and I'm gonna troll the fuck out of that guy. I mean, because I enjoy it. That's what I enjoy doing, and
You might
I
want to
want people to
cut.
have fun.
You might want to color code your discussions then. So if you want to have something serious, you're like just in chat, just be like, "We've got a code red mod team. Look at your color cards."
Yeah,
Like,
well, I'm gonna get some more, a couple more moderators, but the side chat had become a huge issue, and I don't want just people getting banned. I want the discourse. I really like that. Brian Stevens is giving it right back to them. That's what I've always wanted, and that was always my argument with the moderators that wanted a more tight side chat. Was you should be able to combat bad statements and bad ideas, and if you can't combat that, well, then I'm sorry, put your blinders on and just turn your ears up and listen. I don't know what to tell you because you should be able to combat that. If you can't,
if you can't handle the live chat, there's a little fucking button that says live chat, and
yeah,
you
get
just
rid of it.
turn that shit off.
So
But
I'm pretty happy where my live chat is now. I do need a couple more moderators. I'm glad that trolls are starting to come back because I miss the trolls. I enjoy interacting with trolls. Smokey Saint, I know like
yeah,
you
so
think
do
that you're
I.
gonna piss me off. The only way you'll ever piss me off is to come on my stream and actually say some shit to my face because that's the like I love the trolls.
But the other thing that I was going to say to bring it back to what we were originally talking about, which is probably a good place to go back to at this point.
Yeah, we should bring it back to the real issue.
We were talking about solutions a little bit earlier here.
Yeah, and
So
I'll give you mine when you're done.
in conjunction with probably getting rid of the police unions so that police officers have the ability to bargain for better pay and raises and bonuses and promotions based on merit, to higher standards for the police while they're wearing the badge and a higher bar of entry. I think if we're going to do all of this stuff, the final thing we should do probably is raise the pay of the police. They probably need to get paid fairly for what they're doing if the expectations are going to be higher. Because with me personally, in the field that I work in, I'm getting the fuck out at the end of my year in August because there's way too much I have to do, way too much responsibility, way too much strain on my health for as much as they're paying me with the raise and the differential. So, I mean, I can go have a desk job and make more money once I get to the end of this year, just because I've been there an extra year. So, I think that too many good cops say fuck it and they go get desk jobs in the state rather than being on the streets where they belong. And I'm talking about just good cops that do their job. And too many good cops are turned into bad cops because they're beaten down by a broken system that ultimately doesn't give a fuck about them and promotes them to not give a fuck about the people that they're supposed to be serving and protecting. So
I agree wholeheartedly with that. I think that the problem with police is systematic and it's part of the institution. I think that police are trained. I love it when my computer goes off while I'm streaming. Fucking hate that shit. But I think it's a matter of training and it's a matter of culture within these police departments. Like we were talking earlier about how police have this brotherhood amongst themselves, but then they're working close with the DAs. They all know the judges. These people are all getting along. The DAs are having drinks with the defense attorneys.
yeah.
Well,
there's one other reason
it's this
for it
system.
too. It is one of the reasons for it too. A lot of people hear that there are quotas for police officers. That's true and it's not. Technically, it's called something different. Technically, it's called a civilian interaction. And a civilian interaction does not necessarily mean one instance. So, you're driving down the road, you're doing, I don't know, 50 and a 45, right? Cop puts on his lights. He pulls you over. He walks up to the car, license and registration. That's one interaction. He walks back to the car. He checks your ID, your registration, make sure it's insured. The whole thing. He walks back up to you. That's a second interaction. So one stop could be between 2 and 3 interactions, depending on how many what you have to do. So like a field sobriety test would be a third interaction in the same instance. So they get paid based on number of interactions, and a lot of these racist stereotypes that cops use to profile people, which they're not supposed to be doing, but of course they do anyway, are used primarily to what they believe is their benefit to get as many civilian interactions in as possible, so they can check another box off on their fucking list. And that needs to go the fuck away. And that's another part of the unions because that's part of their union contracts. So, fuck it.
All right, so do you think there's been reports for a very long time like that not only neo-Nazi gangs but like real gangs have infiltrated like military. Do you, I think that I don't have evidence of this, but do you think that it's a possibility that neo-Nazis have infiltrated police departments on purpose, and then once they're part of that brotherhood, maybe bring good cops into their ideology just based upon that brotherhood, using that brotherhood to recruit people into the neo-Nazi movement?
So imagine this. Imagine somewhere in the middle, the American Midwest, you're a broke dick motherfucker who could really use a little bit of extra money and is trying to help your buddies out in the side. You got a friend who makes moonshine up in the foothills of some mountain out in Frog Balls, Arkansas, or whatever. Um, so maybe you want to help him cover his operation and make a little off the top. So you go ahead and you become a police officer. Now, undoubtedly, so that you can look the other way, I should note that, and cover for his operation. Now, undoubtedly, there are violent cells of what remains of the probably now defunct Ku Klux Klan, and of course neo-Nazi groups and white supremacist groups. That probably there's probably a bunch of cops that are getting paid by these groups to look the other way when they do fucked up shit, plant evidence, things of this nature. Yeah, I have no doubt that it happens. As to how prevalent that is, I'm not 100% sure. Again, I live.
Yeah, neither. I haven't seen any data on it. It's just when you see like what happened with George Floyd, and I know that there's rumors that there was personal issues between what's his name, Chauvin, whatever that guy's name was, that the guy that had his
I don't
knee on
even
his neck.
call him by name. I call him Officer Knee.
Yeah, what
I
you know,
deserve it.
I'll call him racist. The racist, like the dude with his knee on his neck. That there's rumors that they had personal issues, that they were both bouncers at the same bar, that they had beef before. But I don't. When I see a person with his knee on that man's back, the I can't breathe, man. You know, like the way George Floyd was saying it, there's no doubt that he couldn't breathe, that he was really struggling when he called for his mama. And then to not take your knee off of that, I think that has to be deep rooted hatred. It has to extend beyond some petty grudge you might have had working in a bar together. That is a deep rooted hatred that I would only expect to see from a white supremacist.
Yeah, I think this bears out statistically. I think a vast number of people who are involved in a murder know the victim. So, have known the victim personally. So,
I've seen Crow state this a couple times. What does that mean? Swartz lives matter.
You are mispronouncing it. That's the S word that we don't say anymore. Somebody's having a go.
All right, I figured they were fucking with you. Crow's been here been a supporter for a long time. Been in the Side Chats for a while.
Yeah, they've spelled it incorrectly on purpose. I won't say the word that they're trying to spell.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah,
right, so I figured that they were just fucking with you. I'm like,
yeah, they
it's
are.
completely above me. I have no idea what it means.
Yeah, they're just taking the piss. Good on you. So, I'm sorry. What the fuck were we saying?
Yeah,
That
I kind of cut
completely.
you off. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that completely derailed me. What the fuck was I talking about? Can somebody fucking remind me? God, I need a fucking cigarette. You assholes get the smoke inside. I don't get the fucking smoke inside. These
I only smoke
fuckers.
inside like when I'm here at my desk because the door and the screen is right there and I can blow it like right
Oh,
out the screen. But like I have a small apartment, so like if I'm anywhere else in my apartment with my 10-year-old daughter, I go out on my balcony to smoke usually.
well, I would vape in here, but good luck finding a fucking vape in New York State right now, unless it's, illicit marijuana. Because he got rid of all the flavored vapes. They're
Well, in
all
that
gone, and which
isn't
is
that nationwide now? Wasn't that a Trump thing?
no. Trump wanted to get rid of them, and then he was like, "Actually, that's fucking
Oh, he changed
stupid."
his mind. That's right.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Cuomo actually did it.
Uh,
So, and I mean, unless it's tobacco flavored, you can't even get a menthol flavor or a
yeah.
mint flavored
Yeah, before the
fucking
stream,
vape.
everybody will inform me that his cat probably ate his cigarettes.
I'm pretty sure this
And if
little.
you're not a smoker, then you don't know how disturbing and upset that will make a smoker. So,
Yeah, I'll tell you what. This little orange fuck. I call him the Don because he's a fucking orange menace. I wanna. I have half a mind to just make him an outdoor cat and call it a day. Like,
yeah, I have no pets anymore. So let's get back to solutions. So I'll tell you what I think really needs to happen.
all right,
I think that we need a checks and balances system inside of our police departments. I think that we need a culture that's going to promote good cops. I know people don't like having that discussion right now, but I think that that's the solution. We need to have a culture that is going to promote people to be good cops as opposed to these shitty cops that are going to just do whatever damage to anybody. I don't care. Like if I don't care. I see so many white people right now posting like I've literally seen probably 10 pictures today of white people in that same exact position that George Floyd was in with, with the knee on the neck. And I'm so tired of telling people that sure, these protests are Black Lives Matters protests. These protests are centered around the death of a black man, but this is a protest against the system, and we are trying to stop all of these deaths, black, white, Asian, it doesn't matter what the fuck you are.
yeah,
And I think that the solution is a system of checks and balances, not a snitch culture, but just a culture that's going to really promote acting and behaving as a human being as opposed to my life comes first or these people are just animals to be herded, because I think we get that from a lot of different police officers.
yeah, probably an oversight body, independent and sponsored by the people, not part of the state. Oh, there he goes.
Sorry, my daughter's talking to me. She's
No,
out
I
here
figured that. You're all good, Papa
now.
Bear. Anyway,
She's
fucking
like, how much longer? I'm like, not too much longer, baby.
not too much longer. Yeah, I need to go fucking get more cigarettes apparently. Anyway, so but yeah, that's probably a good idea. I would say. I
You want to
forgot.
come over here and say hi? Yeah, that'll make her happy.
Yeah.
Come say hi to everybody.
Hi.
Hi.
See, there's my little mini me, everybody. All right, we'll be done in just a minute, okay? All right. So yeah, I think that that's one solution, but I also think that defunding has to be a part of it. I think that a militarized police force, a police that have access to high powered weapons, access to even I was actually hearing right wing radio talk about this. I can't remember who it was. I think they were more libertarian, but they were talking about the police cars and how the police go out and buy the best cars, the fastest cars, and all that. And I see where that's necessary, but I don't think everybody needs to have that. I think that we need to massively defund and reinvest in education. So we've been taking money away from education and putting more and more money into military and police. And I think that we need to reverse that culture. I think that that has to be a part of the solution as well.
Yeah. I heard something interesting the other day. I don't know why it always goes back to the Jews, but I heard that a number of other states, including Minnesota, they had trained these police officers to do the knee hold. It was apparently it was I think it was like Israeli secret police or something like that that taught them to do that restraint technique because they had used it on Palestinians for crowd
Yeah,
control.
I've been doing some research on some Israeli military operations that it turned my stomach. I'm thinking about making a video, but then as soon as you make a video against the Israelite government, you're an anti-Semitic, and it's like I don't know if I want to deal with that headache. But like the
There
truth
are
teller
plenty
inside
of
of me is like, you
Jews.
need to do this.
There are plenty of Jews that, for religious reasons, do not support Israel because we're not really supposed to be there until the Mashiach gets here. Well, here we are back to religion on your stream. So there you go. It's
Yeah, well,
topical.
one of these days I'm gonna have to bring you on to talk because you're like the only real Jew I know, and we've never really gotten. We've talked about it a little bit, but we've never really talked about your religion because mainly just for the longest time I gave you shit and called you a fake Jew.
Right. Well, there's a lot of there's fucking couple thousand years worth of history to go over when it comes to Judaism. So there's a lot
Well,
of
I'm definitely
nuance.
interested in learning more about that religion because it's like I know more about Islam and Christianity, and I know very little about actual Judaism.
Yeah, a lot of people just like myself prior um, thought that Judaism was just Christianity light, so like Christianity minus Jesus
Minus
and nothing
Jesus, yeah,
like that.
that's pretty much what I've always thought too.
Yeah, so
Until I started doing this, and I've gotten a little more information.
yeah, and I just completely, when I was an atheist, dismissed it out of hand, and then I came back to it, and there was a DMT trip and a whole thing. So anyway, fun times.
Yeah, well, when it comes to the state of Israel, I think that they should have their state. I think that they should have their country. They should have Jerusalem. I understand that it's a whole dynamic with the Muslims there. I don't quite understand it.
It's a it's
When it
kind of
comes
a
to
wannabe ethno state. It's like a weird
Yeah, see,
little.
I don't understand too much about it. Like, I know that I've usually tended to side. Um, oh shit, what's their name? The Palestinians. I usually tend to side with them when it comes to their conflict, but I don't really know how I feel about the state of Israel because I think that I'm biased by the right wing government of Israel. So
Right.
that's
Well,
my issue is I don't want to be biased. I want to tell truth.
really, what Israel is a state that was established basically as reparations to the Jewish people for the atrocities committed during um, the Holocaust. So it was a piece of land that was acquired and partitioned and basically given to the Jewish people without the consent of the people who were already living there, who of course were people of Middle Eastern descent, as well as some Christians, obviously, because Jerusalem is one of the holy sites for Christians as well. But uh, later on, they had decided that
Let's
they were
count it
gonna
this time. That was only like 7 seconds that time, dude.
they were gonna do sort of a two-state solution. Everybody share, the Christians and the Jews and the Muslims were all gonna share the holy sites, and that didn't work out. There's a difference of opinion about who started what, who said what to who, and what exactly happened. I tend to believe that, and this is just a matter of opinion because I don't know if there's any real hard evidence of who shot it, who shot first, metaphorically speaking. Um, but I think that the Muslims just really did not want to share anything with the Jews. They got fed up with it. But a lot of that has to do with American meddling because if you look
Hmm.
at Iran during the 70s, it looked pretty much like America during the 1970s. So I think that was mostly America's fault that
Yeah,
that happened.
America has really, I think, complicated the situation. Yeah, that's something that I really need to
Because of
start looking
Richard
into
Nixon.
more.
Oh, by the way, fuck Nixon. I don't care if you're a Republican. You can eat me. Fuck Nixon. He
Like,
fucked everything up.
do Republicans like Nixon? Like, I just
Oh
automatically
yeah, yeah,
assumed
yeah. Roger
everybody understood
Stone.
that he was a fucking crook.
Well, okay, so Roger Stone is obviously a Trump supporter, and he's an avid apologist for Richard the fuck Nixon. So obviously, yeah, I know he fucked
How do I
everything.
not know about this, dude?
Got rid of Richard Nixon basically got rid of the gold standard, which is why it's a pet peeve for libertarians. So the value of the dollar had to be based on something. So he decided that he was going to make a deal with the Saudi Arabians to trade Saudi oil exclusively in United States currency, and then a bunch of other nations based the value of their currency on the American currency. That's why it's called the petrodollar.
Mm.
That's why I thought one thing that I did support Trump on was getting rid of fucking foreign oil affairs and doing oil domestic. Because if you're gonna have oil anyway, you might as well have it here, and you might as well not fuck around in the Middle East for their oil. Let's just sell our oil in U.S. dollars because it's here.
You're gonna get me on a political rant now, and I'm trying not to do that here anymore.
No, it's fine. But that's
we don't need any oil. That's my stance. But
you're probably right. But I'm saying if it's gonna fucking be here, and the majority of people depend on it for
drill, baby, drill. I think that's been the Republican slogan forever. So we got sidetracked a little bit, but I'm fairly satisfied with your answer. So I think that you're on the right side of this. The only thing that I would ask, and I don't really expect it, but just maybe sometimes, Will, if you're in the room with these douchebags, and I say that lovingly, John, but if you're in the room with these douchebags, just like maybe speak up and be like, you know what, Brett, stop being a fucking racist. Which I don't know if Brett ever gets racist. I've never heard Brett get racist.
I do. You'd actually have to. I don't mean this to be an asshole, but you'd actually have to watch some of our content when we do live streams together. Because we get on each other's ass about every fucking thing in the book. Every fucking thing.
Yeah, well, I only did hang out with you guys for like 3 days, and we were playing video games. So
I know. It's fine. Man.
And Brett ruined that. Like, I was totally open to, like, because I don't care about people's past, and I have all these people like, you don't trust Brett Keane, and I'm like, I don't give a fuck about the past. I'm gonna judge the guy by what happens now, and I judged him by what happened then. That's why. I mean,
he's a bit of a fucking diva.
Yeah,
I mean, I have to work with the guy too, so it's a little shameless plug, but we do own Games You Love now. It's a joint venture between me, John, and Brett. I think.
Does he still talk about me all the time?
Not really.
Because he used to I used to go to his channel and it would be like, raging atheist. Like, I'm like, dude, like, you are obsessed with me, and I'm like, nothing. I'm small time.
He's obsessed with atheists in general. It's hard to like have a conversation that doesn't go somewhere where it's like, well, atheists say, and I'm just like, fuck me.
Yeah. But we did get sidetracked a lot. I do want to bring you back on to talk about Judaism more in depth.
Right.
But I do want to say that I'm glad that you at least are on the right side of this, and that people that are on that side of this this situation that's going on in America, the racism, the fight against the police, we can have differences of opinion on that. We can have differences of opinion on what the solution is. We can have differences of opinions on what these protests should look like. You could be for the looting, you could be against it. But ultimately, if we're on the right side, we should stand together in solidarity, because it's going to be through numbers that we get anything done. And if we're not standing together in this, despite our disagreements, this won't get done. It'll be just another flashpoint in history where nothing got done. So that's the thing that I really want to try to end on tonight, and just let you guys know that we need all the allies that we can get in this. We can have our disagreements. We can be on Twitter and we can go at each other. But at the end of the day, with this issue, if you're on this side of this issue, then you need to stand in solidarity with everybody, and because it's the only way we're going to get anything done.
Yep. So I'm gonna do a little shameless plug here. If you want,
plug yourself, Will.
Yeah. If you want, John is actually gonna be up. John is actually moving up here, upstate. We're working on it. That's part of the reason he's up here. The other part is we're gonna do kosher barbecue and stuff, and some live streams and things like that. If you want both of us actually physically in the same room, and you want to just like have a conversation, and then if you're like, all right, fuck it, turn the cameras on, that might be something. He comes Wednesday morning and he's leaves.
Well, I did tell John that I would be willing to have another conversation, and I will try not to be rage and keep it cordial as long as you don't get racist and bigoted. That should
No,
happen.
he only does that when people fucking start in on him in the chat. If we're gonna talk to him and have a civilized discussion, he's capable of being fucking cordial and civilized.
Well, I mean, it'll probably, like I said, it would be about his racism and bigoted comments. But depending on how we're talking to each other is going to probably depend on how that conversation could go. Because I could never really have like a serious, and I try to tell this to Matt Powell, and Matt Powell never really understood it. And then he didn't understand that why I went into that debate and was unwilling to debate him. And for everybody should know this. Matt Powell has recently admitted to me privately that he has seen the emails that I sent him about how I would not be debating him on Modern Day Debate, that we would be talking about exactly what I talked about during that debate. He has admitted that privately. He has admitted that privately. Finally, it took about a fucking year, but he still makes the shit videos about that debate. But so I could never have a serious, legitimate conversation with John until we addressed his bigoted and comments. I'm not going to call it racist. I'll call them the bigoted comments. If he's going to address that and really show not even remorse, but like he does not mean that stuff, that he does not feel that way towards people, then maybe we can go on to have a legitimate conversation about other things. But it's just who I am. I can't get beyond that. I would have to confront that first.
I think it's hard for him to come on here and do this because your audience is not gonna, their opinion is not gonna be.
Well, it could be like I'll come on his channel and do it. I don't give a fuck.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, that would probably be better, I think, because I think that your audience's mind is made up on John.
I'm perfectly willing to go anywhere. It doesn't have to be on my channel, but like in order for me to ever really have a serious conversation with him, we would have to have a conversation about all the bigoted comments I've seen.
Okay, cool. Well, that would be one thing to do. What the hell else was I gonna say? I don't even remember. YouTube.com/Will Kincaide. And, oh, by the way, you spelled my name wrong again. You took the E out and you changed the C to a K. Thanks a lot. I want my t-shirt. Where's my t-shirt?
Lotta, my old supporter, Lotta, she's been supporting this channel forever. I always spell her last name wrong. And she'll tell me the right way to spell it. And every single time I will spell it wrong. It's something in my brain just sometimes can't get that right.
Hey, buddy, I'm going to tell you a little secret. If you look right there, right here.
Yeah, I see it. Isn't that how I spelled it?
No, you changed the C. Okay, originally you spelled the just like it is now with a D with an E at the end.
Yeah.
And then you took the E off this time and you changed the fucking C to a K. I was like, all you had to do was remove one letter. What the fuck? Oh,
yeah, that's me for you. That's some Nakasuchi for you.
I remember what I was gonna say. You want some funny dirt on Matt Powell? I got some dirt. Matt Powell once tried to buy videos that Brett Keane had publicly uploaded to the internet as refutations of atheism. So if that's not funny enough already, he also tried to pay Brett to be in his fucking movie.
Oh, no, he didn't.
Yeah, he absolutely fucking did, and Brett will tell you that.
It doesn't surprise me. Like, Matt, why didn't you pay me?
Well, because you're a fucking dirty atheist.
Yeah, I'm a reprobate.
Yeah, I don't. I've got a lot. It's complicated, but I've got a lot of atheists that go to my synagogue, so it's like I don't have anything against fucking atheists. So
I've heard that there's a lot of atheist Jews. I've been hearing that from a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean there are plenty of Jews that still go to Minyan on Friday and Shabbos dinner, and they light the candles and they say the bracha.
I should reach out to that community. That'd be interesting. That would be an interesting conversation to have with an atheist Jew. I think that would be interesting.
Probably already met one. You probably just didn't know it. Like, did you know Aaron Ra is a Jew?
Aaron Ra?
Yeah.
I thought he was a former pagan.
Well, he's ethnically and was raised Jewish. Yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
And
I'm not even sure if he was I might be thinking of somebody else. He hates being called Aaron Ra.
Oh, well, But
I used to say that shit too, and people pointed it out. Like he does not like it, and I'm like, oh, I've just always called him Aaron Ra, no, Aaron Ra, Aaron.
I mean, and Hitchens is probably one of the more famous ones. If you read Hitch 22, he explains how he found that out. His mother committed suicide.
Hitchens was probably like one of my first atheists that I really like actually watched them debate people. You
Yeah,
know,
I mean, there's a reason that in God is not great. There's only a very small in passing section about
hmm.
Judaism,
I didn't know
uh,
that either.
about pigs being unclean and how that's icky or whatever because he likes bacon, and his and then he said something about the Moyle in at the Brisbane Law in New York City who gave a baby genital warts through mouth to penis contact because it's one of the methods of circumcision that's not used at all anywhere and is illegal everywhere in every country except for New York City. It's exclusive to New York City that you can still do this. That's how gross New York City is.
Yeah, it used to be my dream to move to New York, and I do need. I'll let you finish, but I do need to end soon because I told my daughter like
No, I
a
know. I
long
gotta
time.
go find some
But I
cigarettes or I'll kill
that
somebody.
was always my. You know, I've been a writer since I was 5. I wrote my first story when I was 5 years old. It was just a couple pages, but it was like paragraphs and structured sentences and shit. And my dad still has that story. It's about 3 fucking robots, but my dream was always to move to the Mecca, which for a writer that would be New York City. Either New York City or probably LA, but for
It's
me it was New
actually
York
not.
City.
It's actually upstate New York.
Is it
I mean,
upstate? Like all the big houses are in New York City, or at least when
George
they used to
Carlin's
be.
fucking the Comedy Museum and the Writers Museum is in George Carlin's actual. Well, there's a difference between his hometown and his birthplace because if you know anything about Carlin, is that his mother escaped with him and his brother in the middle of the night to escape their alcoholic father from I believe he was. He calls it White Harlem, so that must have been Hell's. It's another name for Hell's Kitchen. So they escaped in the middle of the night and moved to go live with his police officer grandfather in upstate New York. And right around that area is where the comedy museum that started as basically a shrine to George Carlin is. So a lot of writers they go to New York City and they do their stupid fucking book tours and they get an apartment down there for when they're doing signings and shit. But most of them come up to the fucking Adirondacks.
Yeah, I never do that. I just
Yeah,
always thought that the city was the Mecca, and I've never been there. Never once. Like I've been all up and down the East Coast. I've lived in several states. I've lived in like many more cities before finally settling in my birth town here, which is the town I've never wanted to settle in. But I've never been in New York. It's you would think that I would have at least went once to check it out, but I never did.
you want to go to New York or you want to go to New York City?
Well, I wanted to see the city, but
Okay.
that was the dream. But like um, yeah, that's just how fucking life happens, I guess.
When I go to pick up, I've never really been to the city. I've been through the city and in the city, but I've never like toured the sites or seen any of the shit. It was always for work or business or whatever. But I'm going downstate to when John finally gets established up there, which is part of what we're working on up where I live. Once we get that done, I'm gonna rent a fucking SUV because my Lesmobile won't make it that far. I have to I have to go
Why do you
see
call it that? Because
because people call me
that's offending my sensibilities.
okay. So because the gay folks in my Discord server call me the king of all lesbians because I wear a denim jacket and a flannel and I drive a Subaru and I wear like work boots everywhere. Like so we Lo and I were talking and Lo was like your car needs a fucking name and I was like how about the Lesmobile because people won't stop calling me a male lesbian which is actually something that I called myself at one point in time when I was cross dressing. So, I don't know. It's all related to the.
All right, I'll accept that. I will say that it's very bigoted,
It might
very
be.
bigoted, Will. But you're an edgelord. That's what you do.
Yeah, no, edgy Will. Oh, Billy. Oh,
Yeah.
she's at it
I used
again.
to think that I was edgy, and yeah, no, I'm just
Oof.
I'm kind of boring.
Oh, I out edged the Edge Lord Supreme.
But it is bigoted. I would get a new name, Will Kincaide. Um, we demand the story of the three robots. Yeah, I'll ask my dad to uh, email me, like print it out, or why can't I think of words right now? Copy it and email it to me. And yeah, that might be fun to read on a stream. 5-year-old Nakasuchi trying to write a story.
It'd be even more fun drunk.
Oh, I wish I do.
Oh yeah,
I
you
was
cut.
telling Utah Outcast that I miss beer. Like I don't even miss liquor. I miss beer, and I never
Yeah,
drink much beer.
you cut out the alcohol again. Good for you.
Yeah, yeah, I still rage though. Like I thought that I would stop like raging out on people, and I fucking do. Still,
Well,
so
maybe toasty on edibles then.
oh, I smoked so much weed. It's like I've
Okay,
probably
edibles are a different
doubled up
fucking
on my weed
level.
smoke since I stopped drinking.
Yeah, my wife imbibes in the totally legal tobacco as well, and she doesn't like really. She fucking lungful after lungful, nothing, completely sober. But those fucking edibles, man, especially the shit from
Yes, I
California.
don't mess with those too much. Well, for one, they
Ooh, I
don't
fuck
usually
with it.
really do too much to me for
We
some reason.
when I was when I was a younger Will Kincaid, I was doing video. We were recording our D&D sessions, and I was doing like animation and stuff over it and stuff. And I took a fucking cookie once, and my brother fucking made, and it put me on the fucking moon. I've lost an entire day worth of fuck. I don't know what happened exactly. I had to play back the clips. I was like, well, I
Yeah,
was
well, I
like,
know that there's moments like where I get like stupid hot. Like that, it's one of the reasons why I didn't really like streaming at 9 o'clock, because by that point of the night, I've been smoking weed all day. My brain is not firing like it should be. I'm actually my next thing now is to try to cut back on that weed smoke because I have pretty much doubled since I quit drinking, and I'm trying to get healthy and exercise. So I'm I need it for my pain in my legs, but at the same time, I think I smoke way too much weed.
yeah, I don't think that. I would like to say that I don't think that people really get addicted to marijuana, but I can see if you have a chronic issue where it's a pain management issue, I could see getting really fucking addicted to marijuana. And
Yeah.
that's in that sense is needing
Well,
more and
I
more
think
of
I
the fucking
definitely have
shit.
like a deep psychological addiction to it. Like
Yeah.
my brain tells me that I need it for my legs now. It's to that point.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. Is I mean, that's why my fucking wife does it. It's just an all over fucking nightmare for her. So I don't really like. I'm like, I think maybe you need a tolerance break. She's like, I need it for my fucking, this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, yeah, but you're spending fucking $120 a week. So it's a little bit
Shit, I
much.
spent. Man, I ain't even gonna say. I ain't even gonna say. I smoke too much weed. I'll say that.
Yeah.
But we are gonna get out of here. I did. I told my daughter like a half an hour ago that just a couple more minutes, sweetie. So I'm gonna go. It's almost time for her nighttime shot. So I'm probably gonna like watch a movie with
28
her.
minutes knock. I've been keeping
Yeah,
track.
yeah. I mean, I thought it was a pretty good conversation. Like I
Yeah,
was
it was good.
legitimately worried. I knew that I thought that you would probably be on the side of this just because I knew you were libertarian.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you're on the side of it because of what happened to George Floyd, and not just because you're a libertarian. Because I think that I probably would have had an issue with that because I've been listening to right wing talk show hosts and they've been pissing me off. So you would have been my outlet, and I'm glad that you're actually on it for the right reasons too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think
I'll
you might have surprised some people in the audience because I think they probably thought you'd be against it.
Yeah, probably. I mean, like, listen, all right? If you have opinions about me, go to my fucking channel. There's probably a video about the thing you think I have a difference of opinion on with you. And then watch the whole fucking thing instead of the first 5 minutes. Because what I do on purpose is I put a bullshit thing in the front of it to piss people off. And then they don't watch the rest of it. But the people who are there for the actual content know that that's just the first 15 minutes. And then the real shit's in the middle, and then I put little Easter eggs and stuff at the end. So it's like
Yeah,
watch the whole
you
fucking
try
thing.
to get all creative like that and shit.
Yeah,
I'm just a bulldog. I'm straightforward and blunt.
That's why in the beginning of our beef, I put stuff like Knock has a head like a fucking orange, and the
Yeah, I never got that. I'm like, what do I look like, Donald Trump? Like, what the fuck?
And then I fucking I did a tribute to you after the fucking you mentioned the swimming comment. I played Ocean Man to start with. Like I put all that troll shit in there in the beginning to get fucking people pissed off. And then
I had to ignore it. Like people were coming at me like, "Did you see what Will put on his channel?" I'm like, "Nope, I'm not," because then I will fucking just explode.
I called the video Agent Orange Exposure. For fuck's sake. I named one of them. I deliberately named one of them Seeing Red because I knew that was gonna put all of your fun. Because we have cross subscribers. I don't know if they've actually hit the bell button, but I knew that somebody would see that and they would say something to you because I'm not fucking stupid. I know that.
Yeah,
I know
man,
who
I was
talks
getting
to.
like every day. Somebody was coming. All right, man. You're creative with the shit. I'll give you that. You're probably one of the better trolls. You do it better than Brett Keane. Brett Keane is kind of lame when he talks about me.
Fucking atheist come to my channel and fucking shit on my videos. I fucking hate them cocksuckers.
But we are definitely getting out of here this time. Again, ending point, I just want to say don't let our differences when it comes to this overcome our solidarity on this issue. Let's stand strong and let's be persistent. Let's continue it. Don't let it go back to normal because normal was shit. And fuck that hat. We are out of here.
See you later.